This wasn't the plan.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm just shaking head to toe. I'm at that stage when I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's just nerve-wracking.
So here we are, 9,000 kilometers from home, jet-lagged, we're on bikes heading north, and we have absolutely no idea what's going on. We flew into Sri Lanka on New Year's Eve at 1 a.m, picked up SIMs and the all-important local driver's licenses, and collapsed into bed. We spent a few days waiting for the bikes and picked them up about 5 minutes before we set off. Dalma in particular had had a full-on year. Between teaching, marking and trying, mostly successfully, not to murder the students, she hadn't had time to ride.
What do you mean, mostly successfully?
To make matters worse, Dalma's cardo was sitting on a table at home. So we were doing this ride without communications, which brought its own challenges.
I'm not a fast rider, but these were not fast bikes. They were Yamaha Z150s. Motorcycles with the raw fury of a hand-cranked blender, on which we were going to ride around the whole country.
Last year we'd ridden South India, which left us a little shell-shocked. And the first 5 minutes in Sri Lanka felt like that.
Today we were riding from Negombo, just north of Colombo, to Kalpitiya, about halfway up the coast. We'd been told that traffic here was more relaxed and the police were more enthusiastic with enforcement. But the first few minutes didn't feel like that.
Part of it is that we had no way of knowing or understanding what was going on. We're way out of our cultural depth. Is that bus going to give way? What's with that motorcycle riding the wrong way? And yes, is the truck playing Greensleeves selling ice cream or bread?
Mr. Whippy.
On paper, it didn't look like a long trip. 140 kilometers. Google Maps, however, listed that as 5 hours, which seemed a bit excessive. But Google had lied to us before, so we thought 3 hours tops. We were wrong.
Thought you might like a little break. You okay?
Yeah,
How you doing?
I'm okay. My hands hurt. I would like to drink a Coke if we can find some.
Coke?
Yeah.
Okay. I will go find you a Coke.
See you back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Which one?
That's it.
The thing about the traffic was that it had an unfamiliar beat. Like everyone's singing the same song, just a song I don't know. Sri Lanka has 2 speed limits for motorcycles, 50 kilometers an hour in towns and 70 everywhere else. And people mostly stick to that.
But tuk-tuks and tractors have 40 and 50. So you're constantly getting stuck behind a tuk-tuk, dawdling down the road with the unhurried pace of a great aunt who has spotted a lemon sherbet somewhere ahead.
Eventually, we started to see that the seeming chaos was actually structured. Most people gave way to each other, rode slowly and predictably, except for the buses, of course. They continued to be pushy. But as we turned off the main road, another problem started to raise its head. I have a few old injuries from my misspent youth climbing cliff faces in Transylvania. It's why we opted for the upright Yamahas. But eventually, my back starts to complain.
As we turned off the highway, the roads became smaller and quieter. Kalpitiya is salt country, and commercial salt pans were regular. We still didn't trust everyone, especially the buses, but I began to feel a little safer.
Then the roads got ludicrously small, like a footpath with pretensions. We didn't meet anything larger than a tuk-tuk, but if we had, we'd have been riding in sand at the side of the road. Right at this point, David's phone fell off, and a local called out to him to let him know.
Thank you.
Yep, I can be a bit distracted sometimes.
To say the least.
Okay, moving on. We eventually found our way to our beachside shack. It was somewhat rustic. How do you feel?
I feel okay. I even went wee.
You did?
Well, when I hit 68 for the first time.
Yeah. But Kalpitiya itself was spectacular. Salt, sea, wind, bleached white, somehow overexposed. It's a kite sailing destination. which we were completely happy to observe from the shore over a couple of beers.
The stress of the trip receded into the background. My spine began to uncoil itself. Everything seemed okay. The bikes seemed capable if slow, but my anxiety stayed.
After a couple of days, we dusted the sand off our feet, calamine'd our mosquito bites, geared up and headed north. We were heading to Mannar, but there was a national park in the way. We'd thought of taking this road, but it was closed, whether because of poachers or the recent cyclone we didn't know. And so we headed inland, almost to Anuradhapura, before heading seaward again.
The last few days had been sunny, so the few clouds hanging around didn't overly worry us.
As usual, Google Maps promptly led us astray. It does this. 2 different routes on 2 different phones. And without car days, deciding which to take meant stopping and discussing. We eventually came to a causeway where we got talking to a German couple driving a tuk-tuk who took some photos for us.
But those clouds started to intensify, which worried me. I have ridden in the rain in the past, but I didn't have rain gear with me now.
We'd sort of assumed that any rain would be quick and tropical and it would be warm. You know, like it's supposed to be on a tropical island. And the first time it was.
Look at the rain.
I know. Oh,
By the time we got the bikes off the road, the rain was over. So we bought some bananas, ate, and continued on.
Eventually, we stopped heading inland like a person without a map trying to find the nearest pub, and we turned to the northwest. This section was more remote. Fewer towns, dominantly on B roads.
We stopped to rest in the middle of nowhere. Well, in the middle of these hysterically green rice fields. And suddenly the heavens opened.
yep, it's raining.
Real tropical rain with raindrops like small water balloons shot from a celestial cannon.
I was wearing my Scott suit, which had proved pretty waterproof in Australia. But Australian rain and Sri Lankan rain are very different experiences.
I just looked at David and thought, what have you gotten me into? Can I even do this? Within minutes, I was soaked. I bought a new mesh jacket for the trip, and without rain gear, the raindrops went straight through to my base layers. To make matters worse, the temperature started to drop. It was still humid, but it was about 12 degrees. 12 degrees Celsius in the rain does not make for a happy Dharma.
I thought the rain would give up quickly, so we pressed on rather than seeking shelter. It kept raining. Even my buttoned-down Scott jacket started to leak, but it did keep the wind out more than Dharma's gear did. I was worried about her. Cold is the enemy of bikers. You get stupid and start making bad decisions.
We forwarded a stream swollen with the rains.
It looks like the weather's gonna change us.
I was so cold and my gear was so heavy.
Sometimes it would stop raining for a while, but the rain always returned, like that boring bloke at a barbecue.
At one stop, I had an idea. I had a rain cover for the bag in a side pocket. I pushed it into the front of my jacket and zipped up. At least it kept the wind off my chest. We kept on because we didn't have a choice. There were no other hotels before Mannar. I told David we had to keep on because if we stopped, it would be hard for me to get started again.
And so we continued riding for the last hour of the trip without a stop. I mean, the scenery was amazing. Rice fields gave way to salt marshes. Traffic thinned out. The rain increased the isolation. We couldn't talk to each other. We were trapped in our helmets like astronauts.
Once when I was approaching a cow in the middle of the road, a peacock flew overhead. For a second I wasn't sure what to look at, peacock or cow. The cow won by being more dangerous.
I was amazed at how well you handled this section.
Like I say, we really didn't have a choice. Slowly, discomfort turned into determination. I was going to complain loudly, but I wasn't about to let rain interfere with finishing what I started.
Eventually we rode across the long rubble causeway linking Mannar to the mainland. It's an interesting piece of primitive tech. They don't bother with pipes here. The whole thing is porous. The tides and water flow just goes straight through the stones.
Mannar is a weird little town, not a tourist destination, just sort of there. It's the nearest point to India. Pearls, salt, fish, boats. The colonial powers didn't build it to be charming, but for trade and power. It was cut off from the south during the Civil War, so when places like Gaul were being polished, Mannar was just surviving.
We got to our hotel, which was clearly new and shiny, but also odd. Off a tiny little dirt road about a kilometre from town. We checked in and gratefully stripped off our wet gear. All the tech had survived, thankfully. We dressed in dry clothes and headed into town for dinner. It had been a day.
First days on a ride abroad aren't a verdict. They are a calibration.
We wanted a clean start, a competent start. We were tough adventurers after all. You don't see Renault Fens or Bear Grylls rattled on their first day. Accounts of trips, YouTube videos are always about the good bits, the happy bits, people smiling and having fun. It turns out that the first days don't care who you think you are.
As we sat with a beer that night, as my spine released the tension, I looked at tomorrow's ride to Jaffna, 100 kilometers or so. It didn't really bother me anymore. Even if it bucketed down again, I knew I could ride it.
I looked at our roughly planned route. The north, the ancient cities, the west coast, the south, and I thought, this might be survivable. And that felt like enough to keep going.